Welcome to my channel, The Three Mountains. My name is White Eagle. Today I bring you part 2 of the lecture given by Master Samael Aun Weor. So he speaks about the 7 minds. He says, I mentioned in the previous talk that we have 7 centers: the intellectual, the emotional, the motor instinct, and the sexual center. And here I put an image. I also affirmed that there are 2 superior centers, the superior emotional and the superior intellectual. And you can see here in the image that the superior intellectual is here in the head and the superior emotional is located in the heart. Now I clarify that these 2 centers are fully developed once the ego is dead in us. Let's continue. Each center has its own mind. Therefore, we have 7 minds that control our body. One is the intellectual mind, another is the emotional mind, the motor mind, the instinctive mind, the sexual mind, the superior emotional mind, then the superior intellectual mind. I stated that in each one of these minds there exists a truth. So there are 7 truths contained in the 7 minds. We need to be alert like a watchman in times of war, says the master. Now, my words, I want you to remember, please, also, that inside us we have many minds beyond the 7 minds that the master describes above. So how come? This is so because each ego, each defect inside the 5 centers of the human machine has its own mind as well. So the ego of anger, for example, has its own mind, its own ideas, its own logic, its own reasoning to put forth an argument and defend itself on why I became angry. Each ego in us has its own criterion, yes? And so each ego manifesting through us can justify itself, defend its reaction facing a certain situation, justify the need for its manifestation in us. It can defend itself, it has its own logic to defend itself and to accuse others. Master Samael, in another lecture, states that the ego can defend itself in front of a tribunal with a surprising intelligence and say, for example, I was right, I killed that man because he had committed such and such crimes. The ego of lust is another example, that it has its own logic. It can present itself in front of the best tribunals and judges, and it can defend itself. For example, it can say that lust is a natural function of human beings, and that all that exists develop themselves sexually in a natural way. With this argument, the ego in a man can defend itself, saying that there was no lust in his actions. So that what he was doing, his action was expressing itself inside the erotic function. Now, my words, when I met women in a refuge, many of them had been raped and sexually abused by their husbands, often against their will. Some even had turned to lesbianism after having been sexually abused by the lust of their husbands. They told me it was difficult to prove in a court their case, just because the men in question were their husbands. So unless there was physical evidence of having been hurt, their word had no weight in a court, and the men were freed without punishment. So remember, each ego we carry inside has its own logic, its own reasonings, its own mind to justify its own existence in us in order to keep living inside us. But also remember that each ego mind clashes with the other egos inside us for supremacy, for the total control of our human machine. And the egos clashing with each other inside us can drive us insane. We are many inside, and we have many minds. In order to have control of our 5 centers of the human machine, We need to change inside. But we can only change inside by killing the ego in each center. Remember, there are many egos in each center, okay? So self-control depends on us changing, and any internal change can only be the result of the death of the ego, or egos, yes, plural. Then we see the person changing outside. And I gave you my example in video 29, which is an example of self-control, right? If you want to watch it again. So he or she who is not dying internally, yeah, the death of the egos, I mean, is only wasting time, because no change in his life will occur and no real growth is happening. Now we continue with the master's lecture. We can't allow our intellectual mind to do their own things, that it takes you along the path of morbidity and lust. And now I give my example, or after money, or after social status, as it commonly occurs nowadays. We can't allow the emotional mind to lead us along the path of negative emotions. We can't allow the motor mind to turn us into simple football players or boxers. And I give you my example. I used to spend hours inside the gym perfecting my physical body, because that is what society taught me at that time, that boys don't like a fat girl. So deep down in me, I was always afraid of being rejected. So now I prefer to go for walks and play football with my son and enjoy nature. I keep fit, I exercise. Yes, exercise is important to our health, but not in excess. I know the ego is the cause for people to reject one another. The master says we can't allow the instinctive mind to be altered with wrong concepts regarding life in our organism. We must make sure we put each of our organs to march correctly. We must not allow our sexual mind to lead us along the path of lustful sensualism. And again I speak, if we look at society, we see people spend lots of money on clothes just to look sexy, to be wearing the latest fashion, and their children too. I tell you what happens when I need anything for myself or my son. It sounds magical, really. When I go out for a walk, my intuition is the one that pushes me to enter this shop or that shop. I feel I don't need anything, but I obey. And once inside the shop, I find exactly what I said I needed in my mind, and many times at a price that I can afford or on sale, etc. So pay attention along your path, and you will see how God will give you what you need, and plenty of it. Now it is necessary that we develop inside us the superior emotional mind with pure emotions, says the Master, with the fine art, with the symphonies of a Beethoven, a Mozart. It is necessary to develop in us the superior intellectual mind with the culture of the spirit. Yeah? The spirit is the being inside us. Each one of these 7 minds will go perfecting itself together with the elimination of the psychic elements. When one eliminates the aggregates from the intellectual center, then this center stays at the service of the spirit. When one eliminates the psychic aggregates of the inferior emotional center, the superior emotional center will shine. When one eliminates the psychic aggregates from the motor center, represented by bad habits, bad behavior, etc., then in that center the dignified actions will shine, worthy actions in our lives. When one eliminates from the instinct center the aggregates of inferior low instincts, animal instincts, then that center will fulfill its function by directing the evolution of our body in full harmony. When one eliminates all the psychic aggregates from the sexual center, then this center marches wonderfully by transforming the sacred semen in creative energy. Whosoever has eliminated in himself, by means of the sacred fire of Vulcan alchemy, all the psychic aggregates, he or she will possess the superior intellectual and the superior emotional centers. Then his whole personality will be at the service of the being, and the messages that come from the superior part of his own being, passing through the superior centers, will arrive to each of the 5 cylinders of the human machine. This is how the fire will make of us sacred individuals. This is how the fire, says the Master, by burning the psychic aggregates, will turn us into flames. Without the fire, you could not transform yourselves. Before the fire burns, the fire already exists. What exists trapped inside the psychic aggregates? The essence. And I put here the image from video number 40, where you can see how the ego traps the essence, and then the process of the essence being released. And that's when fire is released, because the essence is light, is fire. You can watch it again. And the Master continues and says, and what is the essence? Live fire. And I put this image, yeah. In video 33, I show you once that I was in my home with my mom, my divine mother, sorry, and you could see at the back my wood burner with fire, yes? So now my words. When you start working with alchemy, you are in the process of lighting a fire inside your body. Your physical body is like a wood burner. So once you have the fire inside you burning, then you will see that fire burning inside your house in the astral, like the image above. And the Divine Mother Kundalini only awakens in people who have the fire. Now the Master says, when the psychic aggregates are burned in its totality, what will remain? And here I show you a person doing the effort of killing an ego, refraining himself from not reacting, yes. And the next we have the answer of the Master. What will remain? The fire. And here we see this person after killing an ego. You free the light, and you have this sense of relief, sense of self-comfort, yeah, sense of freedom, and wisdom is acquired. So that is the process. I repeat, my brothers, work with the fire, and I reassure you in the name of truth and justice that you will be liberated. The time has come to light the fire. The time has come to understand that we must shine like igneous flames in the dawn of the universe. And this is the end of part 2 by Master Samael. Now, my words. In order to end this video, I would like to share with you my son's dream. As a parent, I know where my son is in the physical at all times, but I can't stop him from wandering strange places in the astral world. So in the mornings, we usually take a moment to jot down our dreams and discuss where we have been, what we saw, and decode the symbols and learn together from each other's experiences. For example, I have never seen the opposite of killing an ego in the astral. I have never seen an ego entering a person. So I found that what my son saw very interesting, and the immediate effects that one ego can have on us if we allow it to enter. So just a moment. So here it is, a photo because he keeps a dream diary, and I'm going to read what he wrote. He says, "I was in a city with my friend, and we entered a blue laboratorium, a lab, with a dome as its roof. When we entered, I saw a screen which displayed everything in black and white. On that screen, I could see a man getting attacked by a spider. Then a black shadow appeared behind him and entered his mind. I could see that the man was driven insane, and he had his hands on his forehead. I quickly told my friend to run and get out of there, and we escaped." And then he clarifies, saying that the shadow came from the front, actually, and entered his mind, and that the man wasn't defending himself from the spider. He was just running, yes, instead of attacking, and killing the spider. So this man was not doing the spiritual work, obviously, and he allowed one ego to enter his mind. And you can see here what my son drew, the shadow entering the person's mind. And he was telling me that the person, he was holding his head because it was driving him insane once the shadow entered his mind. Up to here, this is the end of part 2 of the Bastards lecture. And if you are new, please start watching and learning from video 1. And I leave you my emails for inquiries. Thank you.